What's going on, everyone, and welcome back. Um, Today we're going to be going over GUI buttons, but first we need to fix some things that we did last episode. Well, not really fix, just add a couple things to it because I forgot a couple things. So when we left off, we were drawing a box, text inside of it. Looked like it worked just fine. But I forgot to add uh, a couple more things for the color change. So whenever I uncomment that, you can see that it comes up black. And I did not notice this before the end of the last episode because I had that commented. So what we need to do is we need to go into color or go into GUI and where exactly is it? I believe it's right here. Yeah. Yeah, right here. And I need to say that, what is it? Bound color. So I need to say bound color equals text color. And down here, just whenever we set the uniform, we need to say bound color equals C. And I believe that's it. Yes, so now it's rendering how it's supposed to. So now the color changes are being taken into effect. Okay, and I believe there's a, what's this? Yes, we actually don't need U because we're not using it, so we should just be able to remove that. That gets rid of that warning. There, because we're actually getting it, so we don't have to cache it there. Alright, and also in the core class, while I am in here, we didn't do some of the cleanup methods, which I should have done a long time ago. So right down here, need to call texture dot cleanup. Hold on, somebody is at my door. Alright, I'm back. So now we've got the textures being cleaned up. I think I put one in shader. Let's see. Oh, come on, dummy. Shader dot nothing. Okay, so that takes care of textures. Did I put one? No. Not one in mesh. So do I put one in here? No, I didn't. I believe that's it for now. And we'll add some more cleanup methods later on down the road, but I think that was actually it. So next, uh, we need to create a GUI function for buttons, which is going to be pretty simple. We've already got box, and a button is just going to draw a box. So it's just going to draw a box and put a label inside of it. That's it. So right here, it's going to be public static boolean and button. No, I'm going to put that first. No, I'll put text first. So string rect, and unlike the box class, we want to be able to change what it looks like whenever we hover it and what it looks like regular. So here, there's no box drawn, but then when we hover it, there's a box drawn over it. So we're going to be doing something similar to that. So what we need is a normal style and a hover style. So we can go GUI style, normal style, and GUI style, hover style. Later on down the road, we may just incorporate all of this together inside of a single style, so it knows, you know, what's hover, what's mouse down, what's normal, etc., etc. But for right now, we can just do it like this, so it's not hurting anything. And for now, I will just return false. So before we can finish this, what we need to do is create a mouse class. That way we have access to where the mouse is on the screen. So, input. So inside of the input package, we want to create a new class and just call it mouse. Now we're also going to be adding some things that we're not going to be implementing right off the bat. And that's because we just haven't gotten there yet. Things like adjusting the mouse look, the image that it's using. So for instance, like a hand for grabbing or scrolling or whatever, which we'll go ahead and put right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new enum, and we're going to call it cursor image. And then we're going to put a pointer, a hand, an H scroll, and a V scroll. And right there. So these are the different types of looks or images we're going to use for the cursor later on down the road. And I just want to implement it now just so that it's already in there. We don't have to screw with it later, because it is part of the mouse, obviously. So let's go ahead and create some variables. So we'll start out with a uh, any button. This will just check to see if any mouse button is currently being used. So public static boolean any button, which is going to be initialized to false. So now we need to create our button types, which is going to be buttons. So basically just buttons held on our mouse, and then buttons down. So immediately when it goes down, and immediately when it goes up. So we're going to have 3 different button types. So it's going to be public static boolean array buttons that equals new boolean, and it's going to be of size not 9. We're going to be using 8 buttons, and it's going to be exactly the same for down buttons and up buttons. So say buttons down and buttons up. So that takes care of those buttons. All right, now we need lists of basically the exact same thing, except for we don't need buttons. We just need the down buttons and the up buttons. And this will give us a list of what we currently are using instead of what's available. So we're just going to leave this as private. Call it private static list of integers and down buttons that equals new array list of integers. We'll import this. And instead of typing it out, just paste it and up buttons. So there we go. Now we have a list of that stuff. Now we just need to cache some of the stuff that we're going to be using. So, of course, we're going to be looping some of this. So we need our iterator variable. I don't want to call it iterator. I'll just leave it like everything else. Because I believe I called everything else just I. Alright. Now we need cache the window so that we're not constantly getting it from the application. And now we need double buffers for the X and Y positions of the mouse. So private static double buffer X buffer and import double buffers. And this will be the Y buffer. Alright, so that is everything that we're going to need. So whenever we yeah, because I'm actually, yeah, I'm going to be passing this in. Yes, public mouse, because we're going to need a constructor for whenever it's created. So window equals application dot window. So that caches the window variable. Now we need to do the buffers. So xBuffer equals buffer utils dot come on. create double buffer. It's going to pass in 1. Oh, come on, you. Computer's being stupid. But when isn't it? There we go. I don't know what in the world just happened there. I don't know if I typed it wrong or what. Okay, just copy that, paste it, and Y buffer. So that's pretty easy, just copy and pasting. Alright, so now we need the poll class, or the poll function. We're just gonna call this to let it do its thing. So poll. Oh, okay. Actually, yes, this class actually needs to extend GLFW mouse button callback. Add unimplemented. There we go. I was wondering why I was missing something. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to iterate through the down buttons and up buttons and set whatever to true or false inside of these. And so to start with some simple loops, do for I equals 0, I is lower than down buttons dot size I plus plus. And just to keep it on one line, we'll say buttons down, and then set down buttons dot get I. Yes, equals false. I'm not going to call it poll because poll happens afterwards. Let's just call it reset. All right, I'm going to do the exact same thing for up buttons. Up and up. Up, down. Oh, because I named it buttons up. Alright, then we need to set any button to false. And I need to clear these. Clear those array lists. And up buttons. There. And that resets all of our values. So down here in the evoke, Okay. So as soon as it evokes, obviously we know that now any buttons equals true, because it's only called, invoke is only ever called if a button was pushed. So obviously it's true. And any button? Okay. So now we need to check the action for the buttons. So do buttons and then the integer button equals action does not equal GLFW release. Right? I'm missing an import. What import am I missing? Yes. I'm releases. I'm missing this. So import static org dot lightweight Java game library dot glfw dot glfw dot glfw press. I'll get all these out of the way. This time instead of press, we need release. So that will get, or that's the import for down and release. And I guess let's just do this. Sorry, I'm making you type stuff that I'm just going over. But so that way, anything that we get that's GLFW, we don't have to do any more imports. That's why I'm doing that. Alright, so where were we? Right here. So, buttons, the iterated, or the current button that we're pushing equals the action does not equal release. Alright, so now we need to compare the pressed actions. So if action equals GLFW and press. Alright, so if it's a press, if the mouse is currently down, I'm going to set buttons down, button equals true, and down buttons dot add the button. Alright, so that gets rid of that. Paste that, and now we're going to do the exact same thing for release. So, release. And instead of up, or instead of down, we need up. Up. And that takes care of the invoke function. So now we need to, can this just be private? Does it allow us to do that? No, it doesn't. I hate having an open public invoke like that because you can call it. Alright. So now we need some methods to be able to get these values. So we'll do public static boolean any button, which is just going to return any button. Now, let's capitalize that. And that's not a function. Okay. So that's going to return if any button on the mouse is pushed. Now we need a function to get what button is being held and compare it to some kind of button code that is an integer. So we're going to return buttons button code. And that's all that does. So if we call this function, then it's going to return true or false if that button is being held. So we need to do the exact same thing twice more. Say any button down first. Any button down. Need buttons down. Button code. And this is not going to return any button. It's going to return down buttons dot size is greater than 0. So if this list is greater than 0, then we're holding, or then we have clicked any button. We'll do the same thing here. Any button up and get button up. And this is going to check if up buttons dot size is greater than 0. Do buttons up. Button code. I believe that's it. Yeah. That's pretty good. That'll work. Alright, now we are on to the part that the whole reason why we created this class to begin with is the mouse position. Alright, and we're going to return a vector2. So, we do public static vector2 position. We're going to import. And yeah, I'm not returning yet. What this is going to do is we're going to call glfw get cursor pos, and then we're going to pass in window, then we're going to pass in the x buffer, and then the y buffer. And then all we have to do is just return new vector 2. Then we're going to have to cache, or convert, not cache, convert the buffers to a float. Get 0 and float y buffer dot get 0. And that's all it is for the position. Yeah, so what it does, you pass in the window and the X buffer and Y buffer, and then it stores it in these buffers. And then all we do is we just convert it to a float. Well, we get the first position in the buffer and convert it to a float, throw it into a vector 2 and return it. That's the end of the mouse class. We most likely will not be changing anything in here, so just leave that inside here. Okay. So now that we have the mouse position, now we can check to see if we are hovering over top of it. So we can do if arg dot, ooh, I don't have that yet. I am missing one. We're gonna have to go into the rec class. I can't believe I did not put this before. Public static rect contains. Just gonna check to see if a vector 2 is inside of the rectangle, which is, if you think about it, a form of collision. So right now we will actually be creating a form of collision. And, well, collision on a simple basis is just that, simple. And I don't know why I did that. I want to put it all together. So I'm just going to put this all on one line just so I'm not taking up more than one line. Now, to do this, all we do is we just check, compare the positions to each point in the rectangle. So we're going to return, wait, why am I, this is a Boolean. I want to return a Boolean, not a rectangle. That would be stupid. I was thinking of a completely different class. Or different function. Alright, so we're going to return position.x is greater than x. And position.x is lower than x plus width. And position.y, wait, why am I calling that position? V. V.width. What the? No. Why is that not accepting it? Change to stat. Oh, because it. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's not supposed to be static. And v.y is greater than y. and v dot y is lower than y plus height. And that'd be it, Captain. So that gives us a contains method. So now we can check if a mouse is inside of it. So we're going to say if r dot contains, and then we're going to pass in input dot, no, not input, we haven't made that class yet, mouse dot position. So if the rectangle contains the mouse position, then we're going to draw a box, which yeah, actually I have not done that yet too. Maybe we'll do it. Because right now we're passing everything as a string and then finding it. I also need to make a method that you can pass in a skint, like the actual style, instead of the string and then finding it and doing all that bull crap. Okay, so that is null. All right, what we're going to do is, because if we don't want a style for the button regular, like right here, you don't see a box back there unless we're hovering over it. Excuse me. So you don't see a box if we're not hovering over it. So what we want to do is, if this is null, we're going to just go ahead and pass it over here, and then it's just going to skip it because it's going to return null whenever we draw it. So then we can just, so we can pass null here, and then we could pass a style there to show it just like how it does here. Same thing with hover. If we don't want hover, we can just pass null and just pass a style here. So on hover, if it's null, I want to pass normal style instead of passing null. Actually, you know what? I may just leave that like that. Instead of passing null here, we'll just pass normal style, bam, bam, if we want it to just stay normal. And then null if we don't want it to draw anything at all. And that way it gives us the option to do what we want. It's all customizable. Alright, so if the rectangle contains the mouse position, I want to get the rect of a drawn box at R and pass in hover style, because we are drawing it. So why aren't you... Why do I... Oh, it's because I put GUI styles. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. I already did it, so let's just go ahead and do it. Static boolean button string text rect r string normal style string hover style. I knew I was going to do that. So it's basically the exact same method except for it's string. It's just like how we did the box down here. And then we're going to return button text and then r skin dot get normal style and skin dot get hover style. So this function, we'll just call this function if we pass in a string instead of a GUI style. And now that we have that, we'll go ahead and do the exact same thing with box. So public static rect box rect r string style, and then I'll just change the name of the other function that we created. So skin dot get style. And then change this to GUI style. That way we can now pass in a style that we have already gotten that we don't need to get. And right here we can just say, because we've already got E, so, and everything's gonna need E. So instead of just doing all that, we'll just do that. There. Alright, that gets rid of that. Now, back to what we were doing. Yay. Alright, so now we need to check to see if a rectangle has been given back to us. Because how we have it is whenever we draw it, it'll give us it'll get us null if E equals null. So we need to make sure that it is not null before drawing a label inside of it. Now, because if we did that, then we won't be able to have a null style. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say if P does not equal null, so if there is a style that is passed, I'm going to do label text P.x and P.y. And else, so if it is null, then I'm going to send it to, and do the same thing there. I'm going to say r.x and r.y. So it's going to draw it where the button would start instead of where the padding would be. Because here, this rectangle is based off of the padding, not the rectangle of where the thing will be drawn. And then I'm going to check if mouse dot get button down. I'm going to check if 0, which is left click. I believe it's 0 is left click, right click is 1, and middle click is 2. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it is. So if you want to add more to this, say you want to be able to right click a button too, you just do and then do the exact same thing here. Just put, one for right click and for middle click too. It's up to you. This is your game engine. You do what you want to do. If you just want to pass styles, just pass styles. Don't even worry about these strings. This is your engine. Alright, so if it's down, I want to return true. You know what? I'm going to put this on one line for now. I don't think we're going to be doing anything else with it. And we need an else. So, oh, what the hell? There. Okay, else. So if the cursor is not inside of the drawing rectangle, then we need to draw it normally. So I'll do rect p equals box, pass an R and normal style. And then basically do the exact same thing. Yes, I have to, because if it's not going to go that far. I was thinking about just taking this and then putting it down here, but I'm actually returning up here, so it wouldn't even reach it. So I'll have to do this twice. So if p does not equal null, do the exact same thing we did up here. And hopefully that's it. Hopefully. Well, let's see. Down here, I will say if GUI.button text will say, I don't know, poop, and new rect goes 0. We'll put it all the way down at the bottom because we'll use this to actually make a debug window. We'll draw it at window. No, not window. I called application. Application dot height minus, make it 30. And the width, we're going to say application dot width, and making it 30. Pass in a style. Now, might as well show you this. I have already set this up in my scan. I already have a button, and I already have a button hover. And you can see it here. So what I'm going to do is that will be my button. And this will be my button hover. And it's just like how we did the box. And just so that you guys know, this doesn't have to be called that at all. Offset or padding, you can name that whatever you want. I don't know if I specified that before, but you can. So if you have that set, or if you have those images set up in the same positions I do, and the images of the same size and everything, then you just copy it from here. If you have your own custom image or whatever, just remember this is your offset, X, Y, width, height, and then left side padding, top padding, right padding, bottom padding. So I already have all that set up. So I can just call button and button hover. And I'm going to say system.out println, and I'll just say clicked. Oh, come on. Show it to me. What did I do wrong? Huh? Explain that to me. Null pointer, text, mouse, Java 74. Mouse 74. So it's complaining about my X buffer and my Y buffer. Oh, you know what? Because we never set it up. We never actually yeah, we never actually set it inside of our core class, just like how we do everything else. So in here, because what we need to do is we need to clear these, or create it and clear it. Which instead of in core, let's do it in application. Yeah, I'll set it up in application. That way, whenever we do input and all this other stuff that we're going to have to create, keyboard and input, we could just put it all into one spot. And yeah, actually, I'll show you something else that we need to add in here. Come to think about it, after we add the stuff that we need. So after GL clear color, we need to do GLFW set mouse button callback, and then we need to pass in the window and create a new mouse. And this is all that I was missing, I'm pretty sure. It's because we weren't creating the mouse, so this was never fired off. And the mouse button callback was never set. So that's pretty important. All right, there we go. And it's changing how we need it to be. Let's make sure if I click. Okay, there we go. I'm doing something wrong. What did I put down? Alright, give me just a second. I messed something up. Alright, stupid me. Never reset it. Poll event. I think it's supposed to be here. Mouse dot, what did I call it? Reset. So after you click, it's not actually resetting it. It still thinks that you're clicking. There we go. That's working right now. Stupid me. I always miss something retarded like that. Alright, there we go. We have a button. Now, our issue is... blah, blah, that crap. Yes, we have it set to draw at screen height and screen width and all that mumbo jumbo, but we don't have rescaling set up yet. Which rescaling is, it's very easy. I mean, it's nothing technical at all. All we have to do is, I said I was going to put it in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a function. Now this function is going to be called every time the application size has changed. So we're going to say public static void on window resized. And it's going to take in a long window, long W for width, no, not long, int, yeah, int width, int h for height. Now I just named this a little bit different just so that I can pass it in there without having to do all the other crap. So we're just going to say width equals W and height equals H. And then I will show you something else here in just a second. Now, just like we did with the mouse callback, we need to set the window size callback. That way, this function is fired every time the window's changed. So we need to set the callback for that so it knows what it needs to call. And we need a new variable. Private static, what is the name of it? GLFW window size callback and callback. Yes, haha. There we go. And that way we can cache that. So now we need to say window size callback equals GLFW window size callback. And this is we're calling the static method. And we're going to call create. Now, I don't know how much you guys know, but we're going to be using a method pointer for this, and we're going to point it to this method. So to do a pointer method, all I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the name of the script that has the function inside of it. It could be any script. How we could put the function in here if we wanted. You would just put core. So you would just put the name of the script and then colon colon, and then you type in the name of the function that you want called. And there we go. That is a method pointer. So we're creating a window size callback, passing in the pointer so it knows what to call. Did I not create that? Oh, I called it callback. No, let's call it, because we may have multiple callbacks. So window size callback. All right. So that sets the callback, and then we need to set the callback in the window itself into GLFW. So we need to call GLFW set window size callback. And this is going to need the window and then the window size callback. And that is it. Now I'm going to show you what we're getting ready to add right here and why this is extremely important and why you don't want to not add it. So everything looks awesome. Well, everything's all thrown together and it looks like a turd, but so whenever we change the size, nothing is working properly. And see, whenever we're moving this is getting stretched out now and it's looking really bad. So what this is your viewport. If you do not set your viewport, but you're setting the size callback, it just messes it all up. So we're going to need GL11 dot GL viewport. We're going to pass in 0, 0, WH. So now when we run it, and if we pull this, now everything stays in proportion. And this stays where it needs to be. I think that was staying on the Y anyways before, but... Alright, yeah, see, everything now does what it's supposed to do. So before I end this, I know these last few episodes have been over an hour, but there's been a lot of information being passed. We're going to, since we already have basically this right here, or this right here, already inside of our application, I'm going to add a little pop-up so that whenever we click it, it tells things that we've passed into the debug. So for that, we need to actually, yeah, we'll do it. What the hell? So in the engine package, create a new class, call it Debug. This is going to look a lot like a C# class, if any of you are familiar with C#. So we're going to have a static list of strings. We're going to call it the log. So log equals new array list of string. And I promise this isn't going to be very big. It's not going to be big at all. Because debugs are actually fairly small in size. Probably not going to go to like right here or something. So then we need to do private static int I equals 0. And that will cache our iterator variable. We need public static void log. And then pass in the message that we want to log. We're going to call a function called add message and then pass in the message. Now you may ask yourself, why are you having log, or like why are you calling a method that calls a method? Well, eventually later down the road we'll add the ability to add error messages and warning messages, and they'll be in different colors. And there'll be a window that's drawn inside of our application. Right now, we're going to use a different method, tinyFD. We'll use that to draw our log for now, but we'll eventually add our own system, and it'll colorize the text, and it'll be larger in scale. Right now I may only have like 20 messages or something, because I mean it would work perfectly, the tinyFD window would, but it doesn't have a scroll on the side. So if you add 1,000 debugs or whatever, then it's just gonna extend and just be one huge window that you can't even scroll and you can't see it or anything. If they had a scroll, that would be phenomenal, and we wouldn't ever have to add something else for our debug view. But for now it'll work, and we'll just throw in the last 20. So then we need to add this, which we can just call private static void add message string message. What this is going to do is it's just gonna add the message to the log, and then we're going to check if log.size is greater than, we said 20. So we only want 20, the last 20 messages in there. So if the log is greater than 20, then we need to call log.remove 0. And then that's going to keep it at the last 20 logs. Alright, now we need to be able to get this log, because I want to keep it private, so we need a getter for it. So we need public static return string log. And this is going to return a single string. It's going to add all those elements into one string. So we're going to go string, call it ret, and it's just going to equal that. So if there's nothing in the log, it's just going to return that. So yeah, so we're not getting anything null being passed. We call for I equals 0. I is lower than log.size. I And it's just going to say ret plus equals, yeah, because we're going to add to it. Log. So log.getI plus, and in parentheses, we're going to add in that. This is our return carriage. So it's going to add a return carriage in between each of the logs. That way they're not all ran together. And then we're going to return ret. Now, last but not least, we don't want the entire log to be on that one line. So we need to be able to get the last entry in the log. So we're going to say public static string last entry. And this will return the last entry. I'm going to say if log.size equals 0, then I want to return that because I don't want to be passing around null entries. Else return log.get log.size minus 1. So that'll get the very last entry in our log. So now back here in the core, we can, instead of system.out.println clicked, we will replace that with tinyfd. I need an underscore. Underscore message box. Let's see. I'm going to have to import tinyfd, but I don't remember. Let me cheat. I'll cheat right here while you're on the screen. How about that? GUI, no. Editor GUI. I have multiple different, yeah, you can see what a real editor or a full-on editor class kind of looks like. Got a lot of stuff. Alright, I believe I have it in here. No, no tinyfd in there. What about engine application? Aha, I've got it in here. We'll just import the whole thing. And I will show you in just a minute what it is. Alright, so yeah, we don't have that. Okay. Wait, what the hell did I just do? Oh, star. So it's import static org.lightweightjavagamelibrary.util.tinyfd.tinyfile.dialogs, and then .star because we're just going to take all of it for now. So it's going to take byte buffer, byte buffer, byte buffer, byte buffer. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So I'm going to say the log message box. We're going to say the name of it we're going to call debug log. This is what it's going to say at the very top, kind of like how it says Eclipse Workspace. That's what that spot is for. And then we're going to say I believe I called it just log, right? Yeah. So we're gonna get the full log as one string. So we're gonna pass that in there, and then that's gonna be written in the body. We're gonna need OK cancel. So these are the buttons that's gonna be used. We're gonna use that and set that to true. So if we click that, it's going to give us an empty log because there's nothing in our log. Then here, I will say for int z equals 0, z is lower than 1. Actually, let's do 50 just because I have it set to 20. So we'll see, make sure that it stays at 20 and doesn't go over. I'm going to say debug dot log. I'm going to say this is just a test. So we're going to add 50 entries, which it should cap it at 20, and it'll keep the last 20 entries, and it'll just give it all there so it gives us a message. Alright, and here instead of poop, the button is going to be the last entry. So that's why I didn't want it passing in null, because I'm just going to pass it straight into the button instead of adding if statements and all that crap. And say debug.last entry. Change to last entry. There we go. Now it's going to give us the last entry, which is this is just a test. And then if I click on it, there we go. There is 20 entries in the log. So that is it. Next week we are going to cover Windows, and we're going to be using some of these method pointers in this window. It's going to be a very short episode. I mean, not long at all. It's not going to be an hour long video like it has been. It's going to be very short because all we're going to do is we're just going to draw the window and have a function that we can customize and whatever. But we'll also be talking about what we're going to be doing after window, which is going to be scroll bars and like this, how it cuts it off, how it cuts off letters. We're going to be doing that. So we're going to have to add culling to our images, and it's going to be a lot of math stuff after this next episode. So we're going to kind of go into detail about how all that's going to work in the next episode. We won't start it, but we'll just kind of talk about it. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next episode.